What if I told you that the way you speak to yourself, internally and out loud, can rewire your brain, alter your stress response, and even shift the trajectory of your life? Neuroscience now shows us that self-directed language has a direct impact on how the brain regulates focus, mood, and motivation. In fact, how you talk to yourself activates the same neural pathways as how others talk to you, meaning your words hold real measurable power. For the next few minutes, I want to guide you through a 21-day process, not of wishful thinking, but of rewiring your mind through intentional, structured self-talk. Your brain is highly impressionable, constantly absorbing information and adapting to its environment. Every single word you speak, whether aloud or internally, affects the neural pathways in your brain. This might sound abstract, but in reality, it's profoundly significant because your brain starts to believe the narrative you constantly feed it. Think of your brain as a sponge. It soaks up everything, especially the thoughts and words that you use to define your sense of self. Every time you speak to yourself, whether it's a gentle encouragement or a harsh criticism, your brain processes those words as truth. Over time, these words carve out neural pathways that strengthen certain beliefs and behaviors. If you tell yourself you're incapable or not good enough, your brain starts to reinforce that belief, and it will become more difficult to break free from that pattern. But on the flip side, if you consistently speak positively to yourself, recognizing your strengths and potential, your brain starts to rewire itself in favor of growth and self-assurance. It's important to note that your brain does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined, what is a fact or a mere suggestion. If you say something to yourself often enough, the brain begins to solidify it as truth. For instance, if you repeatedly say, "I'm not a good public speaker," even if you don't have any concrete evidence to support it, your brain will eventually make that statement feel like an unchangeable fact. On the other hand, if you tell yourself, "I am confident, capable, and growing with every opportunity," your brain will begin to align with that mindset, reinforcing confidence and fostering growth. Your internal dialogue doesn't just reflect your current state of mind, it shapes it. Neuroscience suggests that the words you use influence the chemical processes in your brain. When you speak negatively, the brain releases stress hormones like cortisol, which can undermine your energy and focus. Negative self-talk can trigger the brain's fight or flight response, putting you in a constant state of stress, fear, or anxiety. On the contrary, positive self-talk triggers the release of feel-good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, which help reduce stress and promote a sense of well-being. The brain is a pattern-making organ. It thrives on repetition. This is why it's crucial to be mindful of the language you use with yourself. Repeatedly speaking negatively doesn't just affect your thoughts in the moment, it reinforces a pattern of negativity in the brain that can be difficult to undo. In contrast, when you practice positive, affirming self-talk consistently, your brain begins to build neural pathways that foster confidence, resilience, and emotional strength. This is not just motivational fluff, it's rooted in science. Studies in neuroscience have shown that self-affirmations can change the brain's activity. When people use positive language, particularly in moments of challenge or stress, the brain's reward centers light up, signaling feelings of accomplishment and capability. When you consciously choose empowering words, you're essentially reprogramming your brain to see opportunities instead of obstacles, strengths instead of weaknesses. Think about this for a moment. You're constantly speaking to yourself, even if it's in your head. These words and thoughts form the foundation of your self-perception and your reality. If you're constantly saying, "I'm not enough," or "I'll never succeed," your brain will believe it. But if you consistently say, "I am capable of learning and growing," or "every challenge is an opportunity to become stronger," your brain will adapt to that mindset. The key to unlocking this potential lies in consistency. You can't expect to see dramatic changes with one or two positive thoughts. Just as a single negative thought won't define your reality forever, a single positive affirmation won't either. The real power comes in the practice of repetition, over and over again. When you continuously tell yourself that you are worthy, capable, and powerful, the brain starts to wire those truths into your system. It begins to expect success, to look for solutions rather than problems. The more you reinforce these empowering thoughts, the more your brain will begin to manifest them as part of your reality. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The key is to speak to yourself as though you are already the person you aspire to be. This isn't about tricking yourself. It's about aligning your thoughts with the actions you want to take and the person you want to become. By consistently doing this, you begin to see yourself in a new light, one that reflects your true potential. Self-talk is not just something you do in moments of stress or excitement. It's the ongoing internal dialogue that shapes your sense of self and how you navigate the world. Over time, the words you use in your thoughts can significantly influence the way you view yourself, the decisions you make, and ultimately your life. The way you talk to yourself is not neutral. It actively shapes your identity. Identity is the foundation upon which your actions, behaviors, and choices are built. Who you believe yourself to be dictates how you show up in life. If you believe that you are someone who is weak, incapable, or undeserving of success, your thoughts will reflect that belief. You will make decisions, take actions, and even avoid opportunities that reinforce this negative identity. On the other hand, if you view yourself as someone who is resilient, capable, and deserving of happiness, your choices will align with that identity, leading you toward more positive outcomes. The language you use internally doesn't just describe your reality, it creates it. In a sense, your internal dialogue acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you repeatedly say, "I am a failure, I can't do this," or "I don't deserve success," you are strengthening the neural pathways that reinforce those beliefs. These negative self-perceptions become embedded in your identity, and you start to subconsciously act in ways that confirm them. For example, if you believe you are not capable of succeeding, you may avoid taking risks or making bold moves simply because your internal narrative has already decided the outcome. Conversely, the words you use can be a powerful tool to build a strong, positive identity. When you engage in positive self-talk, you are reinforcing an image of yourself that is aligned with your goals, values, and aspirations. Telling yourself, "I am a work in progress, I have the ability to learn and grow," or "I am deserving of success," creates a mental framework that encourages confidence, resilience, and forward momentum. These positive statements serve as reminders that you have the capacity to overcome obstacles and achieve your dreams. Over time, this consistent reinforcement of positive self-talk alters your identity at a fundamental level. You begin to view yourself not as someone who is destined for failure, but as someone who is capable of change and success. This shift in identity is not just a mental change, it manifests in your behavior and actions. You start to make decisions that reflect your new identity, seek out opportunities that align with your strengths, and approach challenges with the belief that you can handle them. Your identity is also influenced by how you speak about yourself in the context of your past and future. If you continually identify with past failures or negative experiences, you may limit your potential. However, when you frame your past experiences as opportunities for growth, learning, and resilience, you shift the narrative around who you are. The way you talk about your past shapes how you perceive your present and future. If you define yourself by past mistakes or setbacks, you are essentially carrying that identity forward with you. But if you acknowledge that every experience, whether good or bad, is a part of your journey and growth, you allow yourself the freedom to evolve and transform. The way you talk to yourself in the future tense plays a critical role in shaping your identity. If you consistently speak about your future with a sense of hope, purpose, and certainty, you begin to align your present actions with that future version of yourself. For instance, telling yourself, "I am working toward a future where I am confident and successful," creates a clear vision of what you want to become. Your mind then works to make this vision a reality by guiding your actions, decisions, and mindset. Your self-talk is a constant conversation that either strengthens or weakens your identity. It's a tool that you can use to build the person you want to become. If you choose to speak to yourself with kindness, encouragement, and belief in your abilities, you are reinforcing an identity of strength, confidence, and resilience. If you allow negativity and self-doubt to dominate your internal dialogue, you are reinforcing an identity of weakness and limitation. The power to shape your identity lies in the words you choose to use every day. When you speak to yourself, you are engaging in a profound process that has a direct influence on how your brain functions. Neuroscience has shown that the brain is deeply affected by the language you use, especially in terms of how you talk to yourself. Positive language activates specific regions of the brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex helps you focus on goals, plan your future, and exercise control over your impulses. When you speak to yourself with affirmations, encouragement, and belief in your abilities, you activate these regions, priming your brain for success and resilience. Positive self-talk triggers a cascade of beneficial effects in the brain. It's not just about feeling better in the moment. It has lasting neurological effects that improve cognitive performance and emotional stability. When you speak kindly to yourself, especially in moments of stress or challenge, the brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with motivation, pleasure, and reward. This release helps you to stay focused, energized, and motivated. It creates a positive feedback loop where the more you speak positively to yourself, the more motivated you become, and the more your brain reinforces these behaviors as helpful and productive. In contrast, negative self-talk can have the opposite effect. When you criticize yourself, when you focus on perceived failures or weaknesses, the brain releases stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is a powerful hormone that can interfere with your ability to think clearly, manage your emotions, and make effective decisions. When you constantly engage in negative self-talk, you are essentially conditioning your brain to be in a state of stress, anxiety, and fear. This hinders your ability to think creatively, solve problems, or perform at your best. It creates a mental environment that's focused on survival rather than growth and achievement. The brain, however, is highly adaptable. It is a neuroplastic organ, which means it can change and rewire itself based on the experiences and stimuli it receives. This means that the more you engage in positive self-talk, the more you strengthen the neural pathways that promote a growth-oriented mindset. Every time you say something positive about yourself, you are building connections in the brain that make it easier to believe in your capabilities and take actions aligned with your goals. Over time, this can lead to significant changes in how you perceive yourself, how you handle challenges, and how you interact with the world. On the other hand, if you continuously engage in negative self-talk, you reinforce patterns of thinking that limit your potential. For example, if you constantly say, "I'm not good enough, I can't handle this," or "this is too hard," your brain starts to internalize these beliefs. It primes you to see yourself as incapable and reinforces the notion that you will always struggle with certain tasks or challenges. This kind of thinking can become a self-imposed barrier, limiting your ability to take risks, try new things, or push past your comfort zone. It creates a mental environment that is focused on obstacles and failure rather than solutions and success. The impact of positive self-talk extends far beyond just your thoughts. It affects how you approach problems, how you interact with others, and how you handle difficult situations. When you talk to yourself with kindness and encouragement, you are essentially programming your brain to see opportunities rather than setbacks. You are cultivating a mindset that is open to learning, growth, and adaptation. For instance, when you face a challenge, instead of thinking, "I can't do this," you may begin to think, "This is tough, but I can find a way." This shift in mindset activates the prefrontal cortex and allows you to approach the situation with clarity, confidence, and problem-solving skills. Over time, the impact of positive language compounds. The more you practice speaking to yourself with positivity, the more ingrained these patterns become. Your brain begins to default to positive thoughts, making it easier to handle stress, manage emotions, and stay focused on your goals. This doesn't mean that you won't face challenges or setbacks, but rather that you will have the mental and emotional resilience to navigate them effectively. The power of positive self-talk is not just about feeling better. It's about improving your brain's capacity to handle life's complexities with strength and adaptability. The way you talk to yourself shapes the way your brain functions. Positive language activates key areas of the brain responsible for motivation, problem solving, and emotional regulation. Negative language, on the other hand, triggers stress responses that hinder cognitive performance and emotional well-being. By consciously choosing to speak positively to yourself, you create a mental environment that fosters growth, resilience, and success. This simple yet powerful practice can have a profound impact on how you approach life and achieve your goals. Negative thought patterns are often ingrained within us, developed over years of repetitive thinking and reinforced by past experiences, failures, or the opinions of others. These mental loops can become automatic, playing over and over in our minds without much awareness. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-doubt, negativity, and limiting beliefs, but the good news is that these loops can be interrupted with conscious effort. One of the most effective ways to break free from negative self-talk is by replacing those automatic thoughts with clear, commanding words that assert your strength, capabilities, and potential. This is how you take control of your mindset and stop the cycle of negativity that limits your growth. Negative thought loops often begin with small doubts that, left unchecked, grow into overwhelming beliefs about who we are and what we can achieve. For example, it might start with a fleeting thought like, "I'm not good enough," or "I can't handle this." If we don't intervene, this thought snowballs and can dominate our thinking. Before long, these negative thoughts create a narrative in our mind that reinforces our insecurities and fears. Our brain tends to latch on to negativity because it believes it is a way to protect us from potential harm or failure. It's an ancient survival mechanism at work, but in today's world, it often does more harm than good. Interrupting these negative loops requires awareness and intentionality. It starts with recognizing when the negative thought arises and then making the conscious decision to replace it with something more empowering. Instead, of letting the thought, "I'm not good enough," spiral into "I'll never succeed," take a moment to pause and say something powerful like, "I am capable of overcoming challenges," or "Every setback is an opportunity to learn and grow." By doing so, you interrupt the cycle of negativity and replace it with a more constructive belief that empowers you. The key to breaking these loops is consistency. Initially, it may feel unnatural to replace negative thoughts with positive, commanding words, especially if you've been caught in a cycle of self-doubt for a long time. However, just like any other skill, the more you practice, the more it becomes second nature. Over time, you'll begin to notice that your default mode of thinking shifts. Rather than automatically slipping into a negative mindset, you'll start to think more proactively with a focus on solutions and growth rather than limitations and obstacles. This process requires a deep level of self-awareness and self-discipline. When you catch yourself in the midst of a negative thought, it's important not to judge or criticize yourself for having that thought. The goal is not to eliminate negativity entirely, as that's not realistic, but rather to create a new pattern where you catch yourself, intervene, and choose a more empowering thought. Instead of letting your mind be dominated by the negativity, you are actively steering it in a new direction. One of the most powerful ways to interrupt these negative thought loops is by using positive affirmations. These are statements that assert your strengths, your worth, and your potential. For example, if you find yourself thinking, "I'll never be able to complete this project," replace it with, "I am more than capable of handling this, and I will take it one step at a time." These affirmations are not meant to be blind, unrealistic optimism, but rather intentional, focused statements that redirect your brain's attention to your abilities, resources, and past successes. Affirmations work by reprogramming the brain to focus on the positive, and when said repeatedly, they start to shift the way you see yourself. The more you affirm your ability to succeed, to grow, and to overcome challenges, the more your brain adapts to this new belief. It begins to rewire itself to expect success and resilience, even in the face of difficulty. Over time, your internal narrative shifts from one of doubt and limitation to one of confidence and possibility. The power of interruption is not just in the words you use, but in the frequency and intention behind them. Every time you replace a negative thought with a positive, commanding statement, you are training your brain to recognize your power and potential. The more consistent you are, the more automatic it becomes. It's about creating new neural pathways that reinforce your belief in yourself and your ability to succeed. Interrupting negative loops is a critical practice for anyone who wants to break free from limiting beliefs and create lasting change. It's a powerful way to take control of your mindset, refocus your energy, and align your thoughts with your goals. The key is to catch the negative thoughts in the moment, replace them with affirming statements, and make it a daily practice. With time and consistency, these new thought patterns will become your default, and you will experience a profound shift in the way you think, feel, and act. The way you talk to yourself can significantly impact how you approach and handle challenges. Life is full of obstacles, difficulties, and moments when things don't go according to plan. During these times, your internal dialogue plays a crucial role in determining whether you rise to the occasion or become overwhelmed by the situation. Your self-talk has the power to either keep you stuck in a mindset of helplessness or push you toward resilience and growth. By training yourself to speak to yourself in a way that reinforces your inner strength, you can navigate challenges more effectively and with greater confidence. When you face challenges, it's natural to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, or discouraged. However, the way you speak to yourself in these moments can determine whether you stay stuck in those negative emotions or find a way to move forward. If your self-talk is filled with phrases like, "I can't handle this," "this is too much for me," or "I always fail," you are reinforcing a mindset of defeat. These thoughts limit your ability to think clearly, find solutions, and stay focused on what needs to be done. Negative self-talk can easily spiral into a cycle of self-doubt, which prevents you from taking the necessary steps to overcome the obstacle in front of you. On the other hand, when you shift your self-talk to be more empowering and solution-focused, you activate a mindset of resilience. Speaking to yourself with phrases like, "I am capable of handling this," "I have overcome challenges before," and "I can do it again," or "this is an opportunity to grow," helps to reframe the challenge in a way that is less intimidating and more manageable. This kind of self-talk boosts your confidence and encourages you to take action rather than retreat in fear. It shifts your focus from the problem to the possibilities, helping you to see the situation not as something to avoid, but as something to face and conquer. One of the reasons this shift in self-talk is so effective is because it taps into the power of the brain's neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt based on experiences, thoughts, and behaviors. When you consistently use empowering language during challenging moments, your brain begins to rewire itself to respond more effectively to stress and adversity. Instead of defaulting to a mindset of fear or helplessness, your brain starts to create new pathways that allow you to stay calm, focused, and solution-oriented in the face of difficulties. By training yourself to speak to yourself in ways that reinforce your inner strength, you begin to strengthen your mental and emotional resilience. You build a mental toolkit that you can rely on when faced with adversity. This is important because life's challenges are not going away. They are inevitable. But your ability to navigate those challenges successfully lies in how you choose to respond to them. The more you practice speaking to yourself with confidence, determination, and belief in your ability to overcome obstacles, the more resilient you become in the long term. This doesn't mean that challenges won't still be difficult or that you won't experience moments of doubt or frustration. However, when your self-talk is grounded in strength and self-belief, those moments of doubt become temporary setbacks rather than permanent roadblocks. You are able to quickly reframe your thinking, regain your focus, and move forward with renewed determination. Over time, this consistent practice of empowering self-talk helps you develop an inner strength that is unshakable no matter what life throws your way. Furthermore, speaking to yourself in a positive and empowering way doesn't just help you in the moment of adversity, it also builds long-term resilience by shifting your overall mindset. The more you practice positive self-talk, the more it becomes ingrained in your thinking patterns, making it easier to stay resilient and optimistic in the face of future challenges. You begin to view obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable barriers. This shift in mindset makes you more adaptable, resourceful, and capable of handling whatever life presents. The way you talk to yourself in the face of adversity can be a game changer. It can either limit your ability to overcome challenges or empower you to face them with confidence and resilience. By consistently practicing positive, solution-focused self-talk, you reinforce your inner strength and build a mental framework that helps you navigate challenges effectively. The more you speak to yourself in ways that support your growth and resilience, the more you will find that you can handle anything life throws your way. The language you use with yourself directly impacts your sense of self-worth and your overall mental health. The words we speak shape our reality. And when you consistently use negative language toward yourself, it undermines your self-esteem and affects your ability to thrive. Self-criticism can become a powerful force that chips away at your confidence, reinforcing a belief that you are not good enough or that you are incapable of achieving your goals. This constant internal dialogue can leave you feeling unworthy, stressed, and disconnected from your own potential. However, when you change the way you talk to yourself, it has the potential to rebuild your self-esteem and create a more empowering narrative about who you are. Self-esteem is a reflection of how you perceive your value, and it's shaped by the thoughts you have about yourself. When you engage in negative self-talk, you are reinforcing a belief that you are not deserving of success, happiness, or fulfillment. Over time, these beliefs can manifest in behaviors that hold you back, hesitating to take risks, avoiding challenges, or shrinking away from opportunities that could help you grow. Your internal dialogue starts to dictate how you approach situations. And if that dialogue is negative, it can limit your potential in profound ways. On the other hand, when you speak to yourself with kindness, compassion, and encouragement, you begin to nurture a healthier sense of self-worth, which in turn strengthens your ability to take on new challenges and believe in your capacity to succeed. Changing the way you talk to yourself is an essential practice for boosting self-esteem because it shifts the internal conversation from one of self-doubt and criticism to one of self-empowerment and confidence. For instance, if you find yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough to do this," replace it with, "I am capable and I have the skills necessary to succeed." This shift in language allows you to move away from self-defeating thoughts that contribute to low self-esteem and instead create a foundation of belief in your ability to succeed. Every time you consciously replace negative thoughts with more positive, constructive statements, you are strengthening the neural pathways in your brain that reinforce confidence and self-worth. When you engage in positive self-talk, you begin to treat yourself as a friend, offering yourself the same encouragement and compassion that you would give someone you love. This compassionate self-talk can become a powerful tool for building self-esteem because it shifts your focus away from perceived flaws and weaknesses to your strengths, abilities, and potential. Rather than focusing on everything that's wrong, you focus on what's right, which boosts your confidence and belief in yourself. This shift helps you approach challenges with an optimistic mindset, ready to face whatever obstacles arise with the confidence that you have what it takes to handle them. The words you use when speaking to yourself influence your emotional state and overall mental well-being. Negative self-talk often triggers feelings of sadness, anxiety, and hopelessness. When you constantly criticize yourself, your body responds by producing stress hormones like cortisol, which can lead to feelings of overwhelm and anxiety. On the other hand, when you choose to speak to yourself in a positive and affirming way, you are helping to regulate your emotional responses and reduce stress. Positive self-talk activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, which not only makes you feel good in the moment, but also reinforces the belief that you are capable and deserving of success and happiness. Incorporating positive self-talk into your daily routine isn't about ignoring your flaws or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about changing the narrative you tell yourself and being aware of the language you use. It's about choosing to acknowledge your mistakes and challenges without using them as a reason to criticize yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm such a failure," try saying, "I made a mistake, but I can learn from it and do better next time." This approach encourages a growth mindset, where you view setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve rather than as evidence of your inadequacy. Over time, this mindset shift can transform your entire outlook on life, empowering you to take on challenges with greater confidence and resilience. Your internal dialogue holds immense power. It can either lift you up or tear you down. When you speak to yourself with kindness, encouragement, and self-belief, you are nurturing a positive self-esteem and reinforcing the belief that you are capable of achieving your goals. By changing the way you talk to yourself, you can build a foundation of self-esteem that allows you to confidently pursue your dreams and face life's challenges with resilience and optimism. The words you speak to yourself shape your reality, and by choosing to speak with empowerment, you create a path to success and fulfillment.